All right, coming to you again from the golf garage. Domino number 2 of becoming a better ball striker. So remember our first domino, domino number 1, was our setup position. Everything square to the target line, everything parallel to the target line, right? So everything's straight. Make sure our hips are square, our shoulders are square. The butt of the club is going through our belt. And then we want to see 2.5 to 3 knuckles of this hand with our grip. Okay, so once we master that setup, if you haven't watched that video, go back and watch it. Okay, once we got that setup down, now we have to work on the backswing. Okay, the backswing is really important that we do things well so that when we get to the top of our backswing into the transition, we don't have to make any compensations for something we did poorly in the backswing. Okay, we don't want to have to manipulate the club while it's moving quickly because it's very hard to do. All right, so we're going to work on having what's called an on-plane backswing. You've probably heard of that before, an on-plane backswing. So there's a couple of basic swing planes. One is if we drew a line right up my shaft, and I would try to swing the club back on that line. That would be the shaft plane. Another swing plane would be if we went from the hosel just underneath my elbow. That would be the elbow plane. That's going to be out here a little bit more, okay? And then anywhere in between there, you could have a mid forearm plane or whatever. Anything in between there is just a different kind of swing plane. All right. The one that we're going to work with, the one that we really need to hit a good draw, the one that's going to be the least complicated, at least this is where we're going to start with, is the shaft plane. Okay. So we want to swing that club right up a line. If I had a line, drew a line right up a line to first parallel. You can see the club is parallel to the ground. It's also parallel to my target line. That's first parallel. Okay, so we want that club to be on that line along with our hands, both being on that line. We don't want our hands coming up or down low or something weird. We want our hands and our club tracing up that shaft line. All right, and now you can see that my club is right on that line. It's parallel to the ground. The club head's not way out here. This would be off the line or way in here. This would be inside the line. It's right on that line. And when you're doing this, you're going to want to video your swing. Okay, so you're actually going to take a camera or your phone or whatever, iPad, and you're going to want to just kind of set the camera pretty much on the target line. Okay, and when you do that, when you just note that because that camera is out there a little bit, when you get to first parallel, it may look like the club head is outside your hands a little bit in the camera because that camera is shooting from that direction, but it's not, okay? So we want to get that club head and hands going right up that line to our first parallel. Okay, how do we do that? I made that look really easy, and it's really not that difficult. So a couple of things. One of the things we're gonna feel is we're pushing a golf ball straight back behind us. Okay, that's going to be one of the feels. Another feel we have is that our back pocket, our hip, and like the back of our scapula or shoulder blade are rotating back. Okay, and then that's going to allow our hands to go over our back foot. It's going to visually look like from a dress that our hands are going over our back foot. Another way, and this is probably the best way to train this, is to get into your setup position, put the club head, the shaft of the club across your chest like this. We're going to go into setup position, and we're going to turn back, and we're going to point the club down at the target line, down at the ball. And then when you do this, you can see that this front shoulder goes down, this back shoulder goes up a little bit and back, and my back pocket works back as well. Okay? And when I do this, notice that all the weight stays on the inside of my leg. I didn't fall out over here. That's bad. That's going to make it really tough to have any kind of power in our downswing. So everything is now loaded up in this foot. I feel all the pressure, probably 80% of the pressure is in this foot right now. Okay, that's our backswing. And you can see this knee just kind of fell in. It didn't go in a lot. It just kind of followed the back knee a little bit. Okay? So that's what we're working on. So the hands are just kind of going to hinge up on their own a little bit. Another way you could feel this is hinge your hands up a little bit turn back. Look at that, perfect, okay? So we're gonna feel my shoulders rotating back and my hips and legs just like we did with the club head across our chest. And we're just gonna let our hands hinge up a little bit. Boom. Now if you look at the blade of my club, it's not like this. It's not like this. It's not straight up and down, it's just a little bit toe down. Anywhere between a little bit toe down and kind of matching the angle that my spine is at is good, okay? So my spine is kind of at, I don't know, a 10 or 12 degree angle. You'll get that club head kind of doing the same thing. We don't want it like this because when we get to the top, now our hands are not in the right position. So we're just gonna let those wrists hinge up a little bit as we turn back. And then from here, we just go all the way up to the top. All right, and now you'll see that the blade is nice and square. It's not pointing to the sky like this. It's not pointed this way. If you look at my back of my left hand, remember when I talked about the grip, the right hand didn't matter as much as the left hand, okay? That's because when we get to the top here, I got just a small little bow. It's almost flat is my wrist. It's not like this. You'll see maybe Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, some of these pros are in this position here. They got that club face already really shut down, coming down. They can get away with that because they're freaks of nature and they're big and they're strong and they're tall and they can hit the ball a long, long ways that way. But if you're getting into this position at the top, you're losing club head speed on the way down. I promise you. Why is the shaft on the heel of the club? Because the toe rotates around the hosel, around the heel. And if you're not doing that, you're losing 8 miles per hour of club head speed. Okay, so we do want that toe to rotate a little bit. We just don't want it to rotate too much, and we don't want it to rotate too fast, because then you're gonna hit those hooks. Okay, so soft hinge, hands over the back foot, up to the top, and this wrist fully cocked now. Boom, and I am in a perfect spot now to start my downswing. Hands over my back foot, club up the shaft, plane, look at that, nice and square, up to the top. Weights on the inside of the foot. Elbows right in here, it's not fanned out like this or anything. Everything is in a really good position there. Practice this 100 times. Like literally, I mean, you can practice this over and over and over again. Video yourself so you can see yourself doing it, okay? So as you're doing that, remember when I had the shaft, I said that weight was moving onto my back foot. I could feel that weight loading up. Make sure you do that as well. Hands over the back foot, everything goes straight back, wrist hinge a little bit, and my weight is already loaded up on this back foot. Up to the top. Perfect. And now I am ready to start my transition, which is probably the most important part of the downswing. And if we do this backswing correctly, there's less things we have to do in transition to hit a good golf shot. Because the last thing we want to do is be in a bad position here, a bad transition, and then we try to save it with our hands down at the bottom. That's where the big numbers come into play. Okay, so that's the backswing. There's a lot of information there. You might have to watch this video a couple of times, and you're definitely going to have to practice this a lot. Along the shaft line, first parallel, hands went over the foot, everything's nice and parallel. Toe is a little bit up, a little bit toe down. It's not like this, it's not fanned open. Okay, practice, practice, practice this. Next week, we'll work on the transition, which is just an awesome, awesome move. And when you learn how to do this, the transition is what 98, 99% of people get wrong. And the people that do it right, most of them don't even know that they're doing it correctly. So we're gonna work on that. It'll be an eye-opening video. Stay tuned, we'll see you next time.